Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the FESPA podcast, Up Close and Personal, with me, your host, Richard Askam, and my guest today from sunny, I'm hoping, California, Mark Gervais. Hi, Mark.
Yes. Hi. Hi, Richard. Good morning.
Just look over your left shoulder and tell me what the weather's like in LA today.
Oh, it's pretty bright and sunny, and it looks beautiful out there today. Yeah.
Same as every day, then, right? Is that it?
Yeah.
Mark, listen, thank you for joining me on the podcast. Obviously, with the launch of this new show, the Personalisation Experience, we're trying to get the views really from all around the world, but also more importantly, all around the industry on personalisation, where it's been, where it is, and potentially where it's going. And you've obviously worked in this space for some time now. But I'm going to start, if I may, by asking, what does personalisation mean to you?
Yeah. Well, that's isn't that the ultimate question? I mean, and then well, what does that mean to me? Personalization. Um Individual, being an individual, being personalized, and it fits me as a person. Personalizing, having something custom fit, is personalized to your foot, to your body size, shape, whatever. When we start talking about graphics and things like that, now that really just explodes a whole nother element, and we start talking about personalization, about how can I take a graphic and personalize it towards me or what my interests are. So it's a big question. It's a big hairy question. And I think like Richard, it means a lot of different things to different people.
Exactly.
I have had experience with personalization in my recent career path, and that's different than another person's experience is going to be. It can go, and as we've talked before, it can go from something as simple as putting your cat on a mouse pad to creating a beautifully structured garment with custom trims and fit and function and all kinds of things. So it's big. It's a big question, and I don't really know. I mean, for me, because I've had so many different inputs, and I get to look inside a lot of what companies are trying to do with personalization, or let's say customization, which is a form of personalization, right?
Yeah.
So now we're getting into vernacular and terms and definitions, but it kind of revolves around that whole element. Customization is a form of personalization, and now you're able to go online and do some different things. So I think, kind of round it off a little bit and wrap it up here. Personalization means you can take an item, tweak it to what your likes or dislikes are, and that becomes a personalization. And that's available today. They're marketing that. It's online business. It's available. A lot of companies are running that. But that's at big brand level. And a guy wants to, a one-off of his own t-shirt. Well, that's available too. He owns only one shirt. It's for him, it's his family, it's a reunion, whatever it is, but that's personalized. So it gets into this marketing. How do you market the personalization? I think the demand from the consumers are there. I think they're excited. I think they're starting to see this.
Well, it's
And
moved on, Mark, hasn't it? And rather interestingly, you mentioned a couple of things there that I think are sort of almost intrinsic to why largely the opportunity for individualizing things hasn't grown as quickly as everybody expected. And I wondered aloud, and with a few guests on the show here, whether people see one example of a personalized product and believe that everything is the same as that example. So putting your name on a candy bar, putting your name on a soda, that's great, and it's unique, and it worked really well for the brands that did it. But people see it just as that. What you said there was largely the ability to create your own of anything makes it unique and individual, and therefore personalized. You come from the apparel sort of side of the fence, really. What's your, and I'm really interested to hear actually what you think the brands think about personalization. We kind of know what the consumers, we all love it, but what do the brands think about it? What do they want to do? What do they want to achieve with this sort of individualized approach?
yeah, well, I think that's that varies from brand to brand. I mean, let's just, we know the popular sports brands that are out there, and we know they're both active in this arena of personalization or customization. Um, it's I don't know what they want. If it's just an add-on, it's just an like ancillary sales. Well, we can gain some additional sales in this element, by offering these products, and the customers can tweak them and customize them and make them unique to themselves. So I think
I mean, that's the added value. That's the added value piece, isn't it? Really, that
right,
sort of came from. I'm certainly with my background, Mark, came from the drinks industry, the wine industry, where you could actually
right.
add additional value to the product by adding a degree of personalization with labeling. But unfortunately, I think largely that whole world has got stuck with labels. But we see examples of hand painted Converse. There's all sorts of things
Correct.
that you can do with products, and I wonder whether the brands themselves see this as an added value piece, or whether actually they see it as an irritation.
Well, don't they call that disruption? Isn't that that's the clever way, right? Um, well, it's all of what you're talking about, Richard. It really is. It's interesting when you start talking with the brands and understanding what their motives are and ambitions, and just have to watch and see what they do. Um, I know a lot of times, because of the digitalization of our industry, online business, now the products are sold before they're made,
Mm.
right? Okay. So now that opens up the other door that says, wow, since it's not made yet, now we can make it this other way. And with the digitalization or digital printing, as it's robust and moving forward rapidly, now you have the opportunity to sell it before you make it, customize it before you deliver it. Now I'm walking around with a jacket or a hoodie that's got some customization, and I'm the only one wearing it. I might even have a custom print on it, but walking around LA yesterday, I was amazed at all this. I'm in the fashion district, but I'm walking around looking at these guys' clothes. I'm like, they couldn't have made very many of those. I mean, that was a pretty unique item. So you're starting to see this. And then if the high brand levels, like, the super brands, like, the Gucci or the LVs or whatever, what happens when they start getting into it? We see a lot of collabs with other brands, but when does that start to become a little bit of a personalization? So
Well, it's
I,
interesting, isn't it? Because those high level brands that you're talking about have always done this. Of course, they call it haute couture for many years, and
okay.
that and that sort of elevated it beyond what the grubby end of personalization, as I would put it.
Okay.
But actually, it's the same thing. I mean, it's creating unique pieces, that people are proud to wear, and that gives value back to the brand, I guess, to a certain extent. But I think one of the changes, Mark, that's come around from COVID, especially, is the willingness in those and the sports brands that you mentioned, particularly, the willingness to create a direct to consumer business that previously wasn't there, and in doing so allowed for that bespoke production notion, if you like, or added value finishing to the garments. Because previously the model was, make 10,000 pairs, sell them to a retailer sells them to the consumer, and it was all standard all the way down the line. You
Right.
chuck in direct to consumer, and suddenly those brands, are having an individual conversation with you that wants to buy something slightly different. That's the
Sure.
big change, right, for those brands.
Right.
And this is what's driving, I think, part of this conversation, and is the ability to be able to add your own touch, your own mark, your own design to an otherwise standard pair of sneakers or hoodie or whatever that garment
Sure.
happens to be.
Sure.
Yeah. So your experience, Mark, in that world, and for anybody listening or watching today, just tell me, give me your 30-second resume of the, maybe 2 minutes, of the things that you've done, that allows you to voice this opinion.
Well, I mean, what, some of my production background, my
Yeah,
experience,
your
or
greatest hits.
well, I've been involved in the screen printing side of the industry for 45 years. Been involved in textile apparel manufacturing for over 35 years, with about 20 of those years in Asia, specifically China, and having built some large full-scale operations, screen printing facilities that are connected to vertical garment manufacturers that go from yarn to finished garment, and having the opportunity to work with brands, interact with the designers, the developers, and look at the innovation and where they're going and what they're trying to do. And as a production company, how do we support that? And how do we build the machine that can support our customers and their ambitions and desires with the products that they want to deliver? So in those last 20 years, we built the machine that was capable of doing that, and we invested in robotics and automation and digitalization. So the machine's in place, and we're here and ready. So, and just being able to travel throughout the industry and have contacts in Europe and in Asia and USA with machine and ink, and just networking, it's been so fantastic. And having the opportunity to give back to the industry is really what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
That's great. You're listening to the Up Close and Personal podcast with me, Richard Askam, and my guest today, Mark Gervais. And Mark, you just said something that's quite interesting to me, that the machines are already there. So what are we waiting for? What's the hold up before personalized, individualized, customized really explodes?
Well, there's a connection that needs to be solidified between the brand and the production, and really understand their complete vision on how they're going to go forward from an apparel side. Okay, I see it happening a lot with equipment, shoes, but as we move into apparel, and again, I emphasize on digitalization and what's happening in that arena, which is explosive. I mean, when you talk about digital knitting, where they can body scan you and then knit to fit you, I mean, that's really some personalization, right?
Yeah.
So I think we have machines in place. That's not to say that we're not going to, acquire additional machinery to enhance that, but we're kind of waiting to see which direction they want to go. I mean, it's a little bit of a disruption in our production environment, but we can handle that. Just kind of waiting for the consumers, who really, at the end of the day, they really decide if it's going to be successful or not. I mean,
and it was ever thus, wasn't it? Really, but I
right?
think certainly what I've seen over the last 10 years, I guess, and it's 9 years ago since I did the Share a Coke campaign with Coca-Cola, and that seemed to be almost the starting pistol on this latest round of personalization. Although, as we know, it's been around for centuries. It seems to have got stuck, and part of the job of this show in May in Munich is to get as many people from all sides of the industry, brands, retailers, manufacturers, printers, you name it, data analysts, consumer behavioralists,
Right.
inside the tent, and have one big conversation about the opportunity. Because for me, and you just reinforced it, the things that are needed already exist, and the consumers like the product, but there's a missing link. So is that awareness? Is that marketing? What would you say is needed to fill that gap? The magic question.
Yeah, isn't that what we're all looking for, right? I don't have that one. Well, maybe I did. It's over here.
So it's something, right? There is a missing piece to this jigsaw.
Consumers. I think it's the consumer. At the end of the day, they really decide if it's going to be a successful product. I mean, you can do all the marketing and campaigning and promotion, but if the people aren't buying it, it doesn't work. So if suddenly people go, I'm not going to wear that unless I can customize the sleeve, the collar, the print, the trim, the draw cord. So I think the consumers are going to put forth a demand for it, and then we have to deliver.
And with the world that we are now find ourselves in, as let's call it slightly maturer people, the consumer of today is very tech savvy, very digital savvy, very social media savvy, and are looking to stand out amongst the crowd, probably more so than ever. So this in theory plays exactly to that desire, doesn't it? If you can go online and create your own piece of art in apparel or otherwise, it's the holy grail for them, isn't it?
Oh yeah, Oh, and then we talk about software companies that can take artwork and you can put some random spins on it and just it'll become customized, and no other one would be like that. So I mean, there's a lot of exciting things happening, I think.
And when you use the word customized there, which I always find quite interesting, Mark, because you said at the top of the show there that everybody sees it slightly differently.
Yeah.
Do you think, in a way, that the words that we use as an industry almost distract the consumer from the possibilities? So you hear personalized, you hear customized, you hear bespoke, you hear configured. You know, in the motor industry, if you go online to choose your car, you're doing configuration rather than personal.
Right.
Do you think there is a case really to bring this all down to one word to describe what you can do, and that one word is individualized?
I would go with that, yeah, because at the end of it, that's really what it becomes.
Mm.
It's the individual.
Mm. And that's what people want, is to be individual, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting times, Mark. I know you've got a busy day today, and I won't say who with, but I'm fascinated to hear you know, how that conversation will go. But listen, thank you for joining me on the podcast. I've tried 2 or 3 times over the last few weeks. We've had some wrinkles in the
yeah. Thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you in Munich in May.
Cool. I'll be there. Thanks.
Great stuff. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you.